Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show. Here's your host, Sterling Fox.
Welcome to the Money and Wealth Show, where each week we offer you opinions on business, the markets, and the economy. And it's a real pleasure this week to welcome one of our title sponsors to the program. Larry Reaugh is the president and CEO of American Manganese Incorporated. Larry, good to see you again.
Oh, it's good to see you, Sterling.
And before we go even one half step further, thank you so much for your support with this program. From the beginning, you've been one of our staunchest supporters, and we do appreciate it. Well, let's talk a little bit before we get to the specifics of small cap Canadian mining company stocks, Larry. Some thoughts in a general sense of the recent disaster in Japan and the ripple effect that is creating all over the planet.
Well, that's interesting. As you know, I produce a newsletter called the Fundamentals of the Metal Markets, and I've been talking about severe corrections for some time now. This earthquake in Japan, which is devastating, has certainly created a very steep correction in the market.
Indeed.
And but the rapidity of the fall should actually reverse the trend a lot sooner than if it was falling at 200, 300, 400 points a day, for example. But you know, the market was overdue for a correction. This was the catalyst that gave it the correction. But as we know, China continues to consume metals. In the long term, what does Japan need? It needs commodities, whether it's metal, steel, copper, lead, zinc, lumber, all of those commodities. Food needs all of the commodities. So there's going to be an extra demand put on the commodity markets.
It's the third largest economy in the world, not the most successful economy in the last 15 or 20 years, but still a force to be reckoned with, Larry.
Oh, exactly. And what choice do you have? You have to rebuild the country. And, you know, people need homes, people need jobs. That'll all start happening. They'll turn it around pretty rapidly. The Chinese are very innovative, and they'll get the money, and they'll rebuild that country.
Tell us about American Manganese, the most successful of the Reaugh group of companies, and our guest is president and CEO of several junior Canadian mining companies, but it's American Manganese that I wanted to zoom in on for a few moments. Larry, how's it doing?
Well, manganese itself, of course, is crucial to steel. There's no substitution for it. You can't make steel without it, and it's you know, the extra component besides iron. So that makes it unique and critical. And when I say the word critical, critical is now becoming a byword in the market. People are beginning to understand that not only rare earths are critical, but other metals are critical. Metals that, for example, North America doesn't have. It doesn't have rare earths, although Molycorp is producing a small amount from stockpiles. Molycorp will be a producer in the future, but they don't have any production of manganese. So we're looking at the electrolytic side, the fastest growing segment of the manganese business, and that's rising at 26% a year. China produces 97% of it. We can produce it, according to our PIA, at half the cost of China.
Oh, okay.
So that puts us in the driver's seat. Not only that, but now there's new technology coming out, and I don't know if you follow batteries at all for the hybrids and ordinary batteries and storage batteries, but the lithium manganese battery itself puts out the greatest amount of power, the least amount of weight, double that. The power is double that of any other battery out there.
Okay.
The Volt is using it. There's 9-volt batteries that have 5 times the life of any other battery, less weight. And so there's another avenue opening up for the electrolytic manganese side, although it would be the electrolytic manganese dioxide side. We can make one or the other.
And this is out of the mine site, which is in Arizona in the United States.
That's correct. We have a 43101 resource there of 6.8 billion pounds of indicated and about 8.9 billion pounds of inferred. We have a pre-feasibility that's being done by Wardrop right now. We have a patented process, which we gave a paper at this SME conference in Denver here recently. We have a pilot plant testing going on with Chemetco, the ones that helped us develop the process, and actually gave the paper at the SME conference. So, we're very happy with critical metals, and the fact that we're now starting to get some visibility out there. The company was able to raise $9 million in the last month.
And under these economic trying times, that's quite an accomplishment. I want to just stop you for a second and talk about inferred and indicated. Indicated is what you can identify, you know is in the ground, and inferred is what you suspect is also there. Is that how the
Yes.
difference?
The indicated is usually from fairly well-spaced drill holes. Inferred is wider spaced drill holes and other intelligence you may have from adits or trenches. And you have to fill in those holes to bring it into the indicated. But if you can imagine a body of coal, which is usually in layers and stretches over several acres or can go for several miles, our manganese is very similar to that. And so we're very confident that the inferred will become indicated.
And you were able to raise the necessary capital because of the indicated. You know X amount is in the ground. This will net you X number of dollars. And so the investors are looking at the math. As you say in your ads, do the math. So the math is pretty easy to do in terms of viewing profit potential.
Oh yeah. When you look at the preliminary economic evaluation, our cost is 44 cents a pound. It currently trades in the U.S. at $1.85, in the world market at $1.65. So you can see the margins there. China's costs are $1 a pound. Then they have a 20% export duty. There's only one producer in the free world, and that's in South Africa, and they have a cost of $1.10 a pound. So we have a very definite advantage here as the lowest cost producer. Even if the pre-feasibility comes out higher, say at 60 cents. Still.
You're still way ahead of the rest of the pack.
Everybody else. That's right.
Our guest on the Money and Wealth Show this week is the president and CEO of American Manganese Incorporated, Larry Reaugh. And we're back with more after this.
Always consult your investment professional before making any investment decision.
American Manganese Inc. has a world-class deposit in Arizona, indicated 6.7 billion pounds, inferred 8.9 billion pounds, potentially the lowest cost producer of electrolytic manganese. American Manganese Inc. has a projected cash cost of 44 cents a pound. The metal trades near $2 a pound. Do the math. Trading symbol AMY. Visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Reaugh, at 604-531-9639.
You're watching The Money and Wealth Show, archived online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Here's your host, Sterling Fox.
Welcome back to the Money and Wealth Show. Our special guest this week is the president and CEO of American Manganese Incorporated. Larry Reaugh is back with us. Great to have you back, Larry. You were talking about American Manganese, and we've had other guests recently who have helped us to understand how junior Canadian or small cap Canadian mining stocks work. And one thing that we've learned quite recently is the fact that Canadian regulations require all members of the exchange to undergo pretty transparent and pretty serious reporting procedures. Unlike most of the rest of the world, we're the best at putting the goods on the table for the investor to examine.
Yes, of course, that's your NI 43-101 reporting. Whether it's the feasibility study, pilot plant testing, it all has to be done according to 43-101 standards. Of course, the resources, the drilling, it comes down to the drilling. It has to be described. You have to tell how you took the sample, how you secured the sample. And from that point on, it goes to the geologist or to the engineers who calculate the ore body, and that all follows a certain format of distance between the holes, etc. That gives you the confidence in the ore body. And everybody's under the same standards, so there's no variation of how you would calculate an ore body. It's all pretty much standardized, and that's, of course, after the Reaugh situation.
Well, exactly, and that was a real black spot on the Canadian mining industry, period. But out of that very negative experience for hundreds of thousands of investors came a brand new system of reporting requirements that now literally is the best on earth.
I agree. You know, the companies are well monitored, whether it's through the BC Securities Commission or the Toronto Stock Exchange, on how they do their reporting and their financials, how they do their reporting on their assets, and it keeps a lot of the gilding of the lily away from the companies.
Well, and you know, it also, I would think, to some investors, helps reduce the sort of Vegas risk thing that a lot of people just sort of blanket throw over the entire junior mining sector. Oh, you might as well just take your money and put it on the crap table in Vegas. Well, not so if the reporting requirements for these companies are you got to be above board at all times. That's got to be better for an operator like yourself when you need to raise $9 million as you've just done.
Well, exactly. The 43101 gives us that credibility that we need and that confidence in what we're reporting. Now, risk in the mining business and the junior mining business is high risk because a lot of these 43101 reports are referring to potential resources, drill programs. The ore may or may not be there. That's the risk. But you know, the higher the risk, the greater the reward.
There you go. And that's always been the attraction, hasn't it?
Oh yes, exactly.
Is it in these uncertain times, and we've already talked about the situation in Japan, which has created global uncertainty and caused a lot of people to, well, liquidate their assets, Larry, and just, you know, it's just a little too spooky out there. I think I'm going to just stand by with cash and feel comfortable and much safer. How long does that period of jitters reverberate into the junior mining sector?
A lot longer than it does the senior mining sector. The juniors are always the last ones to pick up at the end of one of these collapses in the market. But we're in a long-term bull market in commodities, and this is another bump in the road. Deep bump, but a bump in the road. And you know, it'll give you some buying opportunities. Some of the people that sold should be looking at buying back in now, because you know, these companies, some of these companies had the value. The value was there, you know, at $6, and now it's $3.
Right, sure. Yeah.
So the reality is you're buying a $6 value for $3 today because of something that was not controlled by the market, by the company. That was controlled by the market, which you have no control over. So, yeah, this is another buying opportunity.
How many people do you reckon, in terms of the big picture, 100% of all investors, what percentage of that big group, Larry, are interested enough in small cap mining stocks to become actively involved as players?
Oh, it's probably, if you look at the funds, there's probably 20% of them.
Okay.
That's where the big money's made.
Okay.
You know, the companies that are 40 cents today and are drilling in a prolific area, like the Yukon's been hot, Ontario and the gold belt there, that's been hot. The South American gold belts have been hot. The chances of finding a discovery and creating a 10, 20, 30, 40 bagger out of a 40-cent stock. But you only take a portion of your money and you put it in the high-risk area. But you could make all of your money out of that high-risk stock if everything connects for you.
Our special guest this week on the Money and Wealth Show is the president and CEO of American Manganese Incorporated. It's a real treat to have Larry Reaugh back with us, and there's more to come after this.
The Money and Wealth Show is archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com.
Molycorp Gold Corp has substantial assets. Magnesium deposit, inferred 52 billion pounds. Molybdenum deposit, indicated 1.9 million tons. Inferred 1.8 million tons at 0.087% MO. Past silver producer, average 182 ounces per ton. Trading symbol, MOR. Website, mollycore.com, or phone me, Larry Reaugh, at 604-531-9639.
You're watching The Money and Wealth Show, archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com. Here's your host, Sterling Fox.
Welcome back to the Money and Wealth Show. Our special guest this week is the Chairman and CEO of American Manganese Incorporated, Larry Reaugh, with us. And Larry, a number of guests on this program in recent weeks have unanimously agreed, and they come from all different parts of the financial sector, they all unanimously agree that 2011 should be just a terrific year for junior Canadian mining stocks. Why is there this universal sentiment out there?
Well, I would have to agree with them. The BRIC countries are continuing to grow. Even the Japanese situation with the earthquakes and the infrastructure damage and the replacement of the infrastructure is going to put more demands on metals and commodities again. So 2011 should be a good year. The only thing that worries me about it is everybody is agreeing to it.
So there's a
at the same
bandwagon
time.
effect going on?
Well, you see, usually when we all agree on something, we're all wrong.
Okay.
And but you know, in my letter, I talked about how the market was going to turn, and 2008 was the bottom of the market, and we were going to go up. I see 2011 and 2012 as being the two best years. Then we could be looking at another big correction. And you know, these corrections can wipe out your whole portfolio.
Absolutely.
You know, these bulls are hard to ride. I mean, 8 seconds on a bull in real life is a tough ride.
It's an eternity.
Yeah.
It is.
And, you know, it's no different in a bull market like this one, you know, because you can get caught in the down trough. And if you're in the wrong side of the equation, you can get wiped out. You got to be a long-term investor in some of your strategies.
Well, there's some of the reasoning that I've heard is that Canadian mining stocks, especially the juniors, have been, well, undervalued in recent years. Gold, of course, and silver and the metals, base and precious, have gone up, 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 but the stocks haven't necessarily kept pace with the actual metal increases. And this is just a catch-up phase for the stocks. Do you agree with that?
Oh, yes, the juniors have been really depressed, and you're starting to see it starting to happen last year. It's beginning to happen more and more this year, where the juniors are able to get the capital to move their projects ahead. More discoveries creates more excitements, and you're going more excitement, and you're going to get more money into that part of the industry. It's time for the juniors to fly. I mean, if you'd have been around in 1980 when the juniors were flying, you know, if you just had the word name oil or gold in your stock, it was worth $1 a share.
Sure.
And we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that exuberance in the market. But we're going to start to see it. And some of those companies are going to come out of there as big winners, and some of them will be winners for their investors, but maybe not a producer at the end of the day.
So the Canadian companies that are touted to do pretty well, despite the current setback because of the ripple effect out of the disaster in Japan, there's a lot of 2011 left. And so if this is a sector that previously has been off an investor's radar, and there's all of this buoyant news and even perhaps a dangerous level of agreement in the sector itself, should people, especially now that they've been liquidated some, they've got some cash, they're ready to buy back and they're ready to play. This is a low dollar amount for a high risk, but this is perhaps a sector they should take a serious look at now.
I think that you know, somebody should be looking at this. If you're a conservative investor, putting 5% of your investment portfolio.
Right.
You have $1 million, that's $50,000 into some of the junior deals. Spread them out. And you might find that that'll return you a lot more than the $950,000 you put into a blue chip deal. So yes, I think the juniors, you know, that Wild West, that everybody talking about their winners, is going to catch on. It's going to go across the country, and it's going to have a great effect on the prices of some of these junior companies.
You mentioned some Canadian hotspots, the Northern Ontario Gold Belt, the Yukon, et cetera. Your three companies do business in China, and in 2 American states. As an investor, if I'm looking to put some money into one of these junior companies, does it matter where the actual production is going on? Is it safer to deal with a company that's in a jurisdiction like America or Canada versus dealing with a company that's operating in China? How much tougher is that for you?
China is a difficult sell. You don't have, they're not going to grab back the property like you're seeing a lot of the South American and some of the African nations are doing. They're nationalizing the industry or just plain confiscating the assets.
Right.
Those are the real big risks out there. China doesn't have that risk, but China does have a reputation that is not that great in dealing with junior companies. And so it's difficult to keep moving a project ahead in China. But yes, you gotta, if you're an investor, you have to look at where you're located. Of course, if you're located in the United States or Canada,
safe territory.
Those are good jurisdictions.
Sure. Yeah.
And maybe you have a little tougher environmental permitting laws, but if you've got a good project and if you're a good citizen and you put up a good environmental plan, you'll get your permits.
Our special guest this week is Larry Reaugh, Chairman and CEO of American Manganese Incorporated. And in a moment, the final word.
The Money and Wealth Show is archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com.
Looking to advertise to targeted audiences? Online at talkdigitalnetwork.com or howstreet.com. On television, The Money and Wealth Show. And on radio, This Week in Money. To learn more about getting your message in front of our audiences, email us info@howstreet.com or call us 604-699-8600.
You're watching The Money and Wealth Show, archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com. Here's your host, Sterling Fox.
And now, with a final word on today's program, here again is our special guest, Larry Reaugh.
Thanks, Sterling. I'd just like to tell the viewers that now's the time to be looking at stocks, getting back into the market, stop selling. Why? China and India are going to keep eating up the resources. Now with the Japanese infrastructure that has to be replaced, they're going to eat up resources. Look at critical metals. Critical metals are going to duplicate what happened in the rare earths. And I believe that the rare earths have gone to billions of market caps from millions. The same thing will happen in the critical metals. And that's my advice to you, is to get back into the market, make some money.
Our thanks to Larry Reaugh. Good to see you again. Thanks so much for coming by. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your continued corporate support of our program.
Thank you.
Also, thanks to Fritz and the gang here at Churchill's at the Holiday Inn in North Vancouver for the hospitality. And for the Money and Wealth Show, I'm Sterling Fox. See you next time.